Well, thanks very much, Peter. Welcome, everybody. I'm sure we're going to have a few people still coming on, but we will, in the respecting everybody's time, we'll start off. I want to give everybody a big welcome, of course, coming to the President's Forum. We've got a lot of options that we make available for people, and I know that time is always a challenge, and it's nice to see folks here. We've got let's see, we've got some AGs on as well. At least I thought I saw. Anyway, we may have some coming if they're not here. There we go. In any event, we've got a couple of club presidents here to make some presentations and kick us off on some discussion today. We've got Ross Cooper from Powell River. Hello, Ross.
And I'm sorry that we're in the news today, or this last couple of days.
Well, yeah. Indeed, it's not not what you want to see, and of course, from a whole bunch of reasons. And Linda Roca from the Rotary Club of Squamish. Hi, Linda.
Morning.
And they're here to talk to us today about one, what is required to be an effective club president, and two, what it takes to run a good, fun club meeting in a vibrant club. And after each keynote comment, we'll break into rooms for discussion to learn from each other, those with previous experience sharing knowledge with those who are first-time presidents. And then we'll continue in open forum for the last half hour for those who can stay to discuss those two topics further, or other issues or topics of interest to this group. Without further ado, I'd like to invite Ross Cooper to speak.
Thank you, John. I'm glad Linda's after me, because my talk is pretty business-like. So I was asked to talk about what makes an effective club. So in my opinion only, and in all due respect, here is 5 different items I've come up with. Show up, know your role, listen and communicate, and check in regularly. So show up, number 1. You took the position, whether you're voted in by a majority or no one else wanted the job, you ultimately said yes. You're now responsible for the well-being of your club and your club members. You think that that's overwhelming, and no, if you don't show up, or if you show up in your head and in your heart. You've had 1 year at the helm of an amazing service club, and if you show up fully, you'll have an excellent year. I've seen presidents who go in half-heartedly, and they have excuses of I'm too busy, or I'm not knowing what to do, and such like that. And I remember those years because it affects the club and myself in that way. But I've also remembered very well the presidents who seemed to lead effortlessly. Everything ran smooth. What seemed like all members felt part of something bigger than of themselves. Those presidents affected me in a positive way because they decided to show up. The effort brought energy, and conversely, the energy brought effort. So the hard work you put into planning will make it easier for you as a president, in my opinion. So number 2 is know your role. You took on the position of president. Shouldn't be any more than that. As president, you have a very important role that no one in your club does. You manage, coordinate, and plan for everyone. If you decide to take on an additional role, such as a program coordinator or such, you're taking away from your role as a president, and you're also taking away from a member's chance to become program coordinator. I've heard many times from presidents, oh, it's just easier if I take it on. This distracts you away from what you should be really doing, president stuff. Your role is to find the right person for each of the pieces of the puzzle. Sometimes it's an effort to make that happen, but when everybody is working at their role, magic happens. Even if a chair is away for a holiday, your role as a president is to encourage that committee chair to find a replacement for them during their absence. You might be getting in the way of a nice, quiet member that's just waiting to shine in that temporary role where they're best served. So your job is to place everyone in those roles and support them in those jobs. Number 3, listen. Each time you're in front of a member is an opportunity to hear the health of the club through them. Whether it's a chance discussion at your weekly club meetings over dinner, or it's in a formal setting like a monthly board meeting. In each encounter, be open to listening. Your members are going to speak to you, either it's directly or indirectly, of issues that need to be addressed in the club. Be neutral and listen, and you'll learn lots. Number 4, communicate. The biggest complaints I've ever heard in a club are around communication. You as president want each of your members to be on the same page. If all members are being communicated to equally, the club is healthy and going in the right direction. If a member says, I didn't know that, or nobody told me, they might as well be saying, I as a member am not important enough to let me know. Good, full communication to all members makes them all feel equally valued. Good, strong, concise messaging cuts down any inefficiencies, and that is when you start playing catch up in order to get everybody on the same page. And finally, keep checking in. The plan is a working plan. You don't just build your club leadership and let it go for a year. You have to keep talking, supporting, fixing if needed. Your role is to get everybody to the finish line at the same time.
Right. Well, thank you very much, Ross. That's
here's my old school technology.
Oh, great. So maybe could we get a copy of that to distribute afterwards?
Absolutely.
To keynote that. So thank you very much. That's excellent. So go into breakout rooms, and in about 15 minutes, we'll come back and have a quick debrief so we can get on to the other topic. We have a bit of time for a debrief here. I was just talking to Sheila. Perhaps, Sheila, if you want to just read out your notes, so to speak, and then we'll go to the other group.
Sure. Okay. So we went over the list that Ross presented, starting with show up. And because so many of us repeat as president, one of the things you have to remember that every year is a different year. Every time is different. You have different leaders in your club and a different environment. So you do need to be there 100%. Ross mentioned that one time, or somebody mentioned that one time they were a repeat president and were not as engaged, and it definitely impacted the club. So that is the first thing. So this is essential. But that being said, you have a life outside of Rotary, and you should be able to go away on a vacation, for instance. So make sure you have someone to back you up. We discussed what would be the best way to approach it. Ask your PE first if they're either unable or unwilling, especially if they're it's early in your term and they're new to Rotary PE. They might not feel comfortable running the meeting, so then approach past presidents in your club, and you may end up having to share it amongst more than one person while you're away. But remember, you do have a life outside of Rotary. And under know your role, the big thing for under know your role is learn to delegate. Make sure that you don't try to take on running everything, because if you're running all of the aspects of the club, taking notes at the meetings or coordinating the speakers and that sort of thing, you're taking away from your primary role as president. And listen, communicate, and check in regularly. We kind of lump them into a flow of things. So things like if you send out an email that needs a response and you don't get a response, follow up. Don't wait more than 3 days. And if you don't get a response after that, after a second attempt, then pick up the phone and talk to the person to make sure that there's nothing going wrong. Suggestion that regularly meeting with members, particularly your directors, go for coffee. Do something so that you can have a one-on-one, face-to-face chat with the people that are helping you to run the club, and make sure that everybody's on the same page.
Great. Well, thank you, Sheila. And Sheila said she'd share her notes. That's great. Is there someone from the other group that could speak?
Yeah, so one of the things we said, show up was kind of one of the conversation pieces in our group as well, and re-engagement, because we're really finding post-COVID that getting re-engaged has been very challenging for some clubs. The number one issue for the show up though is venue challenges and constantly changing venues, and having to keep that high communication and almost spending so much time just trying to organize the meetings. We spent a little bit of time around know your role and understanding what that means, and the fact that the president still has an oversight role and has to still check in with some committees just to make sure that they need resources or don't need resources, and they have a responsibility for the governance model. And really what we found most of all, even if you do communicate and listen, and even if you adapt the club to the needs of the membership, it doesn't mean that you get a buy-in right away. And that quite often because they're not showing up, they're not seeing that you're adapting to the meetings. And the fact is that you have to keep working to find out what the formula looks like, because every club's culture is different. So that's kind of what we got to. Anybody else want to add anything else? Blake, good.
No, that was good. Good summary, Lauren. Excellent.
Great. Well, thank you all very much. So now I'll invite Linda, please, to talk to us about making things more lively in your club meetings. Thank you, Linda.
Good morning, everybody. I want to start by, I know that Ross started his presentation showing a very nicely typed out 5 steps that he had. This is mine. It's handwritten for those of you that can or can't see it. It's handwritten on a piece of paper. This is what works for me nowadays. But I also came up with kind of a top 5, and it's top 5 for me over, I think I've been president five times, on how to run a good, fun club meeting. And so Ross gave you kind of the foundation of a club, and I'm going to give you a little bit of eyeshadow, rouge, and lipstick on how to make things a little bit fun at your club. And a lot of my points kind of mirror what Ross had been talking about. So one of them is consistency. And I find that if you try to keep your meetings consistent every week, and that could mean a whole bunch of stuff. It could mean how you start your meetings, how you end your meetings. Every week you might have a Rotary Minute or whatever it is that is consistent every week within your club. Keep that up, because I think it's really important for when members come into their meetings that they have that consistency. Number 2 is try new things. And I know it's really difficult for some people to try new things, but really, visit other clubs, see what they're doing, pick up on things that might interest you, because if they do interest you, you're more likely to try them at your own club. And just don't be afraid to try new and different things at your club meetings. Stir the pot a little bit and see how your members react. I've done it a few times successfully and sometimes not so successfully, but you learn from those things. So I think it's important to try. Number 3 is go out of your comfort zone. We all lead in our own ways. We're all very different leaders. We have different styles, the way we present ourselves, the way we present our ideas and our thoughts. And I think sometimes you just have to go a little kind of color outside of the box a little bit. And it goes back to trying new things. And I think that's really important. Number 4, have interesting speakers. What I've started to do for this year at our meetings is that we choose speakers based on the month themes. And we try to get at least 2 keynote speakers every month. And it's been very successful for our club, and members kind of look forward to those presentations. And we always try to, if we can, find ways to work Rotary into those presentations. Like how are they, how can we as a Rotary club affect that certain speaker and what they're speaking about? And so if you kind of connect Rotary and you're connecting the Rotary theme to the speaker, it just kind of brings it all together. And then of course, number 5 is really just try to have fun. And one way I try to do that is finding out a little bit more about our members' personal lives. And that's not like Googling them or anything like that. It's just having conversations with them, learning a little bit about what's happening in their life, good and bad, and everything in between. And kind of try to work that within your club meetings. So if you're doing happy bucks, sad bucks, and those types of things, you'll continue to have that connection with your club members. So those are kind of my top 5. And I think I'll leave it at that.
Great, excellent. I'd like to be a member of your club, but I'll stay put for now. But anyway, so if we could break out into rooms, and thank you for that keynote there, Linda, and we'll be back in about 15 minutes. Thank you.
We talked about a lot about how we can make meetings more interesting by exploring other clubs' ideas, doing joint events, joint socials, or having a social in a location other than your regular meeting to bring people, as many people out as possible, including spouses, so that people can learn more about Rotary in a more relaxed way, not without a formal agenda. Linda's club has stopped doing the anthem and the prayer at the beginning of the meeting, and she's not quite sure why, but you can add something new or take something away if you want. Our club does a land acknowledgement, but and many clubs do things like the 4-way test. I think small clubs struggle to sing "O Canada" because it does sound pretty awful if you don't have anybody that sings well in the group to lead it. We have done socials with other clubs on more than one occasion, and because the Sunshine Coast is a relatively small area, the clubs are known to each other probably better than in some of the bigger cities. But one of the things, we had a meeting last night, and we were talking about the idea of the club supporting the cost of going into Vancouver for people to go to a meeting of one of the bigger clubs in Vancouver. We have a lot of members that haven't been in Rotary other than on the Sunshine Coast, and some of them not for very long. So the opportunity to do makeups is huge, and more of a challenge here than it is there. So that was kind of what we talked about.
Great, thank you, Sheila. Anyone from the other group? Debrief?
Well, we'd certainly be happy to host somebody from your club, Sheila, at Rotary Arbutus. We've got space, and just get in touch with us, and we'll make sure you know what's going on in our schedule.
How big is your club?
Our club is about 25 members now. Yeah, so it's not a big club either, but we're pretty active.
Yeah.
Any other notes from the other group? Just a quick debrief, or if you could submit them, we could circulate any notes you have.
You know, one thing we did say at our thing too is you're getting some really high profile speakers with the,
right.
you know, the RI, with the RI groups, whether it's Rotary Action groups or whether you get Jennifer Jones or Gordon McAnally or those type of people, Dean Roars. Please invite the whole district. You're really underperforming when you bring these people in and you have just your club show up. And there's an opportunity that may, you know, get, you know, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 20, 30 people, but more is better. And I really think we underutilize that power of Zoom and speakers that do very well. And I know we had a couple of those types of speakers last year in our district, and even as a district governor, I wasn't invited. I thought that was disappointing, but please think about the whole district and not just your club.
To that point, Lauren, we actually do have Dean kicking off Foundation Month for Tawasin. We have made the decision, however, to go and meet in person in order to bring people back together. So we don't have the hybrid, but anybody that is around next Thursday morning for a 7:15 start in Tawasin, and it will be in the Red Barn, please come by, because you're right, Dean is a magnificent speaker. Her experiences are second to none, and we'd love to have anybody that could join us for coffee and a muffin and Dean and our funky space while we got it.
Mhm.
Anything else from the other group? If not, then
One of the things that we did
oh.
touch on was the fact that so many clubs are struggling to find a consistent meeting space. And so maintaining a consistency to your meetings, making sure that you do some of the same things at every meeting so people know what to expect, whether it's singing "O Canada" at the beginning or ending with happy dollars or whatever it is that you do consistently. If you haven't got a regular meeting space that you can rely on, it does become more of a challenge. So then you need to get creative and step outside of your comfort zone. But it is a challenge for many of our clubs. It certainly is for the clubs on the Sunshine Coast. So
yeah, good point. Thanks, Sheila. Frank.
Oh, I was just going to say something obvious is to make sure you have an agenda for the meeting so that people know what the meeting, what you're going to be doing at your club meeting. Just sort of what you'd expect.
But do you just display that or distribute it, Frank?
It's sent by email about 3 days before.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah, we do that.
yeah, we do that too.
We, in Squamish, I started taking my laptop and I just do a quick PowerPoint. So you have kind of the same look every week. Information, we do birthdays, anniversaries, years in Rotary, upcoming events, that type of stuff. And it's just, again, it goes back to this consistency of expectations for members when they come into a meeting. And I did want to just do one quick point on speakers. We had the general manager of the Sea to Sky Gondola as our speaker this past week. And for those of you from the Lower Mainland, you know the challenges that the gondola has faced over the last few years. So he came in and just gave us an update. But one little thing we didn't, or many of us didn't know about Kirby, is that he is also involved in a project, a nonprofit organization that builds playgrounds in high war areas, I guess. I don't know how else to put it. And with a connection to Rotary. And he's been doing this for a number of years and kind of kept it on the lowdown, but very, very interesting. So you do hear about these things that your speakers do kind of away from their work life. And for some reason, this one, and well, for a good reason, this one happened to have a connection to Rotary.
Oh, great.
That was it for me.
We should keep in touch with you to find out who that guy is going to speak. So thank you all very much for that. And I'll hand it over to John now to wrap up this portion. And please stay on afterwards if you have the time for more open forum discussion. John?
Okay, well, thanks very much, Peter. And this has been wonderful. And I get kind of a really easy ride in terms of trying to look at summarizing things because we had a couple of excellent speakers who were really well organized and provided a list of 5 things each. And I mean, that kind of says it all in terms of doing the summary. We got into a number of things that of course, in the groups and in reporting that I think really extend that. And I took a couple of things that I'd flag. One is being adaptive. And the thing is that we have got this need to have a mix of consistency and having fun trying new things. And I think it's that blend is brings a real richness, that we do keep some consistency, we do keep some tradition, and at the same time, we are open to change and to looking at different things. But the concept that we're organized as we were today with those presentations, and we, while we are open to change and doing things differently, we're also organized enough to communicate what we're doing and make sure that we have a professional approach to our meetings and so on. So the other thing is learning is the other sort of key take home that I took from some of the discussions, is that we're hungry to learn. We know that there are so many things to learn about Rotary, so many ways to learn. And we really, whether we're a new member, whether we're a first-time president or president-elect, whether we've been we're around for the third or fifth time or whatever as president, there's always things that we're learning, and that's what we're able to apply. And our needs are changing, and we need to get to know some of the options, some of the things that we want to do. So I think all in all, great session. I really appreciate folks coming and sharing. The sharing is what's so useful about this. And give us any feedback in terms of the session, in terms of ways that we can do future President's Forum more effectively. We probably will do a total of 3 or 4 of them through the year, but we want to make sure that we're doing this in a way that's helpful, and any take-home messages we're happy to hear. You can feed back to Peter or to me. Other topics that you'd like to hear, if you want more open discussion, more accountability from district, whatever. I mean, we're open to using this tool as it's going to be effective for club president. Peter, that's I think all I have.
Great. Well, thank you very much. I'll do a quick poll afterwards to you, all of you, and also to those who couldn't make it, to figure out, we're speaking on John's comment, we're all learning how to do this. Lauren did this last year as district governor, and so this year we're just trying out new things. Some work, some don't, like time of day maybe. So we'll get it right and move along. These 2 topics, by the way, were as mentioned in the introductory message, came out of key themes that came out of the PETS, current presidents and PEs now, what they did learn and didn't learn over the past year and what they wanted. So we'll use that list and also talk to you and all the other presidents about what you want to hear about. So with that, then we invite anyone who'd like to stay on for an open forum, bring up any topic you want, continue the discussion on the earlier topics, to stay on for the next bit and have a chat. So thank you. So open discussion if anyone wants to bring anything else up or continue the earlier discussion.
Peter, I think that you should, and John, you should call these like Saturday coffee talks or something like that. And everybody's got to bring their cup of coffee when we come at 9 o'clock. You have to make it a little, you have to make it fun.
Okay.
Yeah, good call.
Thanks.
No,
Well,
but I want to say that this is, it's great because I think in the breakout rooms, we had some really good discussions. It's unfortunate that not more presidents participated, but this is where I think a lot of the stuff happens for individual Rotarians, is in these just frank around the table discussions and chats. And you just get, like, I have 4 things on my to-do list just from 1 hour. Right. So it's awesome. Thank you so much for putting it on.
One of the comments that came through was just a quick note that less lecturing and more facilitation.
Yeah.
So we're trying to make this more open, everyone's discussion, not just a fixed thing. Sorry, I think I interrupted you, Ron.
Yeah, I'm just thinking that if they, and this may have been communicated, and if it is, I apologize, but if they know it's only an hour, I think they're more likely to attend than giving up, if they're not, know they're not giving up a whole morning.
Yeah.
And I like the
Mhm.
coffee idea too.
Yeah, and I think like if you put it kind of that spin, it's like when you go for coffee with somebody, it's a short, quick, catch up, that type of idea.
And maybe a testimonial from someone who did attend saying this was so useful and
Yeah.
whatever, that might help too.
Yeah, and I think 9 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday, most of us have an hour that we can spare. If it's later in the day, life gets complicated and busy. But first thing in the morning, I went, sure, I can do that. It's better
Peter,
than
I'll take
sitting-
take the opportunity to talk about Atlantic Canada. We've been monitoring this because, of course, everybody heard about Hurricane Fiona.
Yeah,
And the fact is now it's out of the news and it's not even talked about, which is
I know.
actually disgusting. But we introduced District 7915, which is Nova Scotia PEI and Newfoundland, to Disaster Aid Canada. And so they're working with them on a program because giving disaster response fund dollars to Rotary Foundation is one way, but it's not going to be, it's not enveloped, it's not being able to be used strictly for Atlantic Canada. And we haven't found a project to tie ourselves onto for Atlantic Canada. But if you're interested on helping Atlantic Canada, right now, Disaster Aid Canada. So I have a call in to Frank Elsom just to see if there's a specific project that might be more heart compelling. Like if it's in Newfoundland, it might be this project. PEI might be this project, and Nova Scotia, of course, Cape Breton might be an area that might be a focus. So if we can find a project that kind of targets our hearts, then we'll try and let the groups know that, because ultimately they were there helping us when we had our BC floods and atmospheric rivers, and we should be showing that we're also caring for them. So 7915's been talking to Disaster Aid Canada. They have a website up and they are taking donations. They just haven't targeted to a specific project yet in that area as well.
what about the actual clubs in those areas? Would they not be able to guide us in some way of us being able to do something?
Yeah, so 7915, the district governor there, which has all those areas all in one, they do work off of clubs. So they have clubs that they're working with in Cape Breton to come up with project ideas. They just haven't seemed to put it onto a website. And same thing with PEI and Newfoundland. That's kind of the entity that kind of, unless you want to go into individually to every club in the district, it gets more complicated. So it's just, we're waiting for some guidance, I guess I'll use that analogy, and hoping that we'll see something sooner than later. There's a lot of insurance money, a lot of government money being spent on it. And so I think everybody's just kind of waiting and seeing where the gaps are. There are gaps already. And most of it's just supply chain stuff and getting help to people who didn't have insurance or don't have this or down and out and stuff like that. So
Lauren, could it be something similar to the fundraising we did for the fires some years back, where all of the money was raised first, put into an account, and then kind of filtered out that way based on the community's needs?
So that's what Disaster Aid Canada does, and that's why we're recommending it. When we did Richmond Steveston as the conduit behind the scenes for tax receipt purposes, we actually got a fair number of dollars from Disaster Aid Canada. And so, I mean, ultimately, we could do something district-wide, but we think Disaster Aid Canada is a better organization to pool the funds. They work from a Rotary Club to a Rotary Club, so it's a Rotary Club of Ladysmith that actually operates Disaster Aid Canada. And so they work with the clubs in Atlantic Canada.
Yeah.
Nancy?
Yes, while we have Annette on and Ken as well, I wondered if Ken could explain to us about the council on legislation and what we should be doing to assist him.
In 5 seconds. Basically, I sent out the council on resolutions, and these come up every year. And so I sent them out. What do you guys feel about them? Give me the feedback on some of the resolutions or all of the resolutions. And then I vote by no later than the end of the day on November the 1st And then that goes on to the COL to carry forward. And like I say, they come out every year. Now, I will come back out to you guys probably in February to look for stuff, January, February, to be looking for changes that you want to put forward for next year for 2023 COR. And those have to go in before the 30th of June, 2023. And it has to be endorsed by the district governor to go forward. So it starts at the club level and goes from there. And I've already got, like Nancy's aware, there's one thing that we've been talking about that we may look to putting forward. But anything that you think this would make Rotary run smoother, whatever, that's what we're looking for. And it's our chance to have a say of how Rotary operates around the world.
Ken, I think that James Fox is going to send you the youth committee's stance for the RILA information.
Yeah, that one is confusing, Linda, because I believe they changed already the Rotary Youth Leadership Academy
Award.
That's what it's been for a long time.
Oh,
Or,
I
no,
see.
they changed the naming. I don't have it in front of me right now.
Yeah,
Yeah, they took out youth, put something else in.
right.
Youth seems like it's just Interact still going on. But yeah, I think they want to make it a little bit more clear as to what it is, because then you'll get more interest and take up. Because it goes all the way to 30.
Well, we're one of the few districts that actually has a RILA program for 19 to 30. And that was always, oh, my battery's running low here. That was always a bit of a concern when we were doing RILA North, just because that youth terminology is in the title. So I think the changes that they're trying to make are good changes anyways, in my mind.
So could I then ask to a point made earlier by Lauren about bringing speakers from afar in and other discussion about that old discussion about meeting entirely in person, meeting hybrid, and only on Zoom. So that mix, it's a challenge for some to the technology, although I guess the district's kind of looking at what might be available, but that would typically be for a district event. For a club though, a smaller club, maybe up north, whatever, to call on speakers to come in and from afar. Is everyone feel kind of comfortable with the three options, the hybrid particularly because it requires the technology?
I would like to make a comment about that, because we found that when we were doing hybrid meetings, so we had some members able to attend in person, and then we had our, the Zoom participants. That did not work very well, because when the meal was being served, a lot of the sound from cutlery and crockery and all that stuff, it made it impossible for those who were on Zoom to actually participate during that time. So we started to look at getting the right equipment to facilitate that, but then COVID sort of ended, and we haven't actually done that. So now we've stuck to 2 meetings each month that are entirely Zoom based. One meeting that's in person, and then one meeting that's a social meeting. So that seems to be working for us, but we did not ever invest in the technology that would have been required to do hybrid meetings. And it'd be interesting to know how many people have and how many people are finding it effective. Anybody have any comments?
In Squamish, we don't do hybrid. We went full on face-to-face, especially for this year. We have twice now had Zoom presenters at our meetings, just with a very simple Zoom login. We schedule our speakers at the beginning of our meeting. So we order our lunches. We have about a 15 to 20-minute window. So we do our speaker first on our agenda, get it over and done with. And then it usually happens that our question period happens while lunch is being served. So by the time people are eating, and I agree with you, there's a little bit of racket with dishes and cutlery and stuff, we're pretty well done. And then we invite the Zoom speaker to either stay or log off, depending on what they'd like to do. And it's worked. But again, we've only done it twice, both successful. And we will try to do a few more for this Rotary year for sure.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
So what we do in our club at Lionsgate is that we have them all as hybrid meetings. We've purchased the technology to do it well, so it's comfortable for both. We have our dinner, and then people join in after the dinner for the meals for the Zoom portion of it. So people aren't sitting around watching people eat.
Right.
Right. Okay.
Okay.
Any other,
I've been, of course, seeing a lot of clubs as we go around, and I see a huge mix in terms of what's happening. Anything from what Ron is describing, and I have not been to Ron's club yet, but anything from what Ron is describing to people who've tried hybrid and Zoom and decided not to go there at all, they're back totally face to face, and sort of anything in between. I mean, the hybrid world, certainly when somebody goes down the road that Ron's club has gone with the right equipment to do everything right, and the technical support to operate that equipment and do it right, because you have to have that as well. But also you have people that do the low tech approach. Anything from one person is participating in the meeting sort of on a laptop. And again, some of this depends too on how big's the club. Because if you've got a relatively small club, you can get away with some things that just don't work with the larger group. So people are finding all sorts of different things and trying different things. And some of them, personal view is that you've really got to be willing to say, okay, this isn't working. We tried this and this doesn't quite work, so we're not going to keep doing it, because people can get pretty frustrated in a hurry with this stuff if it isn't working. And so, sure, we've got to be open to trying different things, but we have to pay a lot of attention to making sure that our members are comfortable in whatever route we're taking.
Thanks.
any other topics of concern, hot topics or recommendations?
I'm going to say goodbye now. Have a great day, everybody.
Right.
Thank you.
Completely different topic is I'm still trying to get the district website with an addition added to it. And so far, nobody stepped forward to say they can do that for me.
I can. What? I should be able to do it, whatever.
Okay, I'll send it to you, Peter.
Yeah.
And on the website, in case everybody doesn't know, at least it's on this call, we are Murray Wood, who is our webmaster, is currently not able to operate. He's had some health challenges that many of you know. He had a brain tumor removed. He collapsed pretty dramatically at our district conference, and his prognosis is good. It wasn't cancerous. He's on the mend, all of that stuff, but it's a very, very long process coming back from brain trauma and surgery and so on. We have got some people, we've got a task group taking a look at website and so on, but basically we're challenged in the short term. And so it's wonderful that people like Peter, who are adept enough at using it, are able to step up and help out a bit. And we hope we don't overload Peter in the meantime.
Yeah, Drew and Barbara Weber
Yeah, exactly.
heading that up.
They're helping it out. Yeah.
So, any other topic? Certainly, if they've got the topic, you think about afterwards, or we've got a list of topics that have come out of the survey that we think that are priorities for presidents looking back on their last year, and also presidents-elect. And maybe we get some feedback from you about what you think is important to you and your colleagues in the district. And we'll work on that for the next forum.
Peter, maybe as public image chair and trying to find a replacement for you, but I mean, you're always looking for stories to put on our website. And Peter's done a great job of keeping some of the higher level, macro level Rotary stuff on, including our newest Arch Clump Society member and Ukraine and other things. So if you have a story to tell, please don't just keep it to yourself. You know, get it onto the district website. It just broadens the audience. So that's just my appeal. We can't brag enough about ourselves. We do a great job at this district. The clubs do remarkable work, and you only find out if you're district governors. So
no, thanks. Excellent point, Lauren. And some of these stories go now into building a showcase of district projects. As I've been saying, I haven't announced it yet or launched it, but it's there, and you can just search showcase on the district website to find it. But want to build up enough of a base there so it has some substance. And anyway, we'll keep working on that one. Thanks, Lauren, for the plug. All right, John, you want to finish up now? Or?
Sure. Yeah, no, I think this is a good wind up, and I love the feedback that we've had. Keeping this to an hour, sounds but then an open forum, I think maybe a good way to go, and it maybe advertising the timing is good. So appreciate those suggestions. Really appreciate the participation today. Folks have been engaged, and that's been wonderful. And Peter, I want to thank you so much for pulling this together, and Peter, for everybody. Peter just does so much as our district trainer on top of all the other things that he's doing. And Peter, thank you so much for this.
Thank you.
Right. All right. Well, farewell, everyone. I'll be in touch. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Peter.
Ciao.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.